So our job today is to show that any time that they give you a 0, so in this case they give you x equals 2, and they say that it's a 0, they want you to show that it's a 0 of this by plugging it in. Before we get to that, I just want to remind you what it means to be a 0. If I was to graph this, the 0 is when you're talking about when does it cross the x-axis. So we have two spots this parabola would cross the x-axis. So that's what we're trying to figure out. When does it cross the x-axis? Now, normally you would box it out, set it equal to 0 and solve, or you would graph it on Desmos and see where it crosses. But today what we're trying to do is we're saying, okay, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you that x equals 2, and you need to plug it in. So you need to do this. I'm going to go back to my equation, and wherever I have an x, I'm going to plug in 2. So I'm plugging in 2. And the question is, when I'm done, how do I know if I found it's a 0 or not? Well, remember, after I'm done here, what does it mean to be 0? If we were doing this any other time or any other way, what we would do is we would go back to the equation that we have and we would plug in 0 for y, because that's what happens when you cross the x-axis, is that y is 0. So if I do all this work and I plug in 2 here and I do the math and I do the math and I get 0, I'm saying that y equals 0. And so if that happens, that means that the number I plugged in is definitely a 0 of that function. So what we're doing to show that it's a 0 is we're taking whatever number they give us, we're plugging it in for x, and if we get 0 at the end, it is a 0. Now that's easy enough when they just give us a real number like that, but we are in chapter 5, and in chapter 5 we're not working on real numbers, we're working on complex numbers. And so here our 0 that they're giving me is this complex number, and here's the polynomial I'm checking if it's a 0 for. So I've got to plug it in here and here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go y equals, and then it's x squared. So I've got to plug in for x, and I've got to square it. But I have to use a bubble because this is more than just a number, right? It's a complex number that I've got going on. Plus 4 times negative 2 minus 3i, that's a minus, plus 13. So we've got to do the math. Now, some places the math is easier than others. Like, for example, this 4, I can multiply that through, right? I can rainbow it through and get what I get. But when I look at this one, I can't distribute the squared because I've got a minus here. And if we have a minus here, remember what this is saying. Squared means I'm taking the number itself times itself. And so I hope we're at the point now where you look at that and you go, oh, that needs a box. Okay, so off to the side, we're going to set up a box for this. We've got negative 2 minus 3i and negative 2 minus 3i. Make sure you put that minus next to that 3 right here so that we don't forget about it. When you put it up here, we forget about it. So put it here. And then I have to go through and do that math. So negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Negative 2 times negative 3i, that's a positive 6i. The same thing's going to happen here. It's going to be a positive 6i. In this bottom box, I've got negative 3i times negative 3i. Well, the negatives are going to cancel. I'm going to get a positive 9. I times I is I squared. But remember, I squared is negative 1, so 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. So now I take that, remember that's what this is, and I'm going to set it equal here. Let's see what we got. We've got 4 minus 9, that's negative 5. We've got our 6 i's that we put together, so that's plus 12i. So what I've just done is I've just done this part, that's right here, plus multiply through by my 4, so I get minus 8 and minus 12i, and then I have a plus 13 at the end. Okay, so now we get back to normal math here. Let's see here. Am I missing? Yeah, this is supposed to have an I, isn't it? Okay. So let's see here. I can put things together. Like I have a negative 5 and a negative 8. That's negative 13. I have plus 12i right here and a minus 12i right here. That's kind of nice. Those cancel out. They zero pair, right? And then I have a plus 13 at the end. And negative 13 plus 13 is 0. So remember what our goal is. Our goal is take this number, plug it in for x, and if I get 0 at the end, then it means the number I just plugged in is a 0. So the question you're going to get asked is, or what you're supposed to do is show that, or decide or show that that is or is not a zero of your polynomial. So because I got 0, I will say it is a 0. So that's what you're supposed to do today. Good luck.